Elemental Shamans in the War Within are all about using the elements and fire and lightning to decimate our enemies. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do it all, and it will be in a beginner-friendly format while also showing you everything that you need to know to succeed. Let's jump straight in and start looking at the stat priorities and our tier set this season. So first up, if you are a beginner, let's have a look at the stat priority. Intellect is your main stat priority. And although the graphic I'm going to show here is the general stat priority that you should aim to get on your gear, as long as you're getting a higher and higher eye level of gear or gear level, that's going to give you more intellect. And that is the main thing we want to look for. After that, we have our secondary stats, crit, haste, mastery, and versatility. Haste is going to increase our attack speed and spell casting. Basically, it's increasing how fast we actually attack, and if we're casting a spell, as you can see here, Lava Burst, we're going to cast that spell in a shorter time if we have more haste. Critical Strike is, of course, a chance to do more damage. Then we have Versatility. This is simply going to increase damage and healing done, while also reducing our damage taken, and it's a really great all-around stat. Now, onto Mastery. This is an interesting one. It's going to increase all elemental and physical damage we do. Your Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, and Chain Lightning have a percentage chance to trigger a second cast on the same target and generating some Maelstrom. Maelstrom is one of the main resources we have as an elemental shaman in the War Within. So basically, our Mastery, called Elemental Overload, is going to give us more percentage of damage, and it's also going to have, obviously if we have more mastery, a higher chance to do a second attack of the one we've just cast. Looking very quickly at our set tier bonus this season, and let me just say, if you are a beginner and you don't know these spells, don't worry, I'm going to be covering them fully in the rotation. Our Earth Shock damage is increased, our Earthquake damage is increased, Earthshock is single target, Earthquake is the AoE or area of effect multi-target version, and then the 4-set bonus, spending Maelstrom, our main resource that we're going to spend, grants us a 5% increased crit chance and a 10% increased critical damage dealt. And that's a really straightforward set bonus for this season for Elemental that is just going to be pretty much used in the general rotation. We don't really have to think about it. So now we're going to go through the utilities and sort of defensives, etc., that you can use as a shaman in, Season 1, Patch 11 of the War Within. Now, the ones I am showing you here, these are the most important utilities. That's not to say that it's a comprehensive list. There are more to use. These are the ones you'll be using the most and are most important, however. So what I would suggest that if you're a beginner or veteran alike, then you should just go through your spellbook and the left side of your talent tree, the shaman class talents, once you're really comfortable with your rotation, etc., and just see what else you have available. But generally, these ones are the main ones that you need to know about. So let's jump into it. First up on the left, we've got Thunderstorm. Call down a bolt of lightning, as you can see here, causing a thunderstorm. It's going to deal amount of damage to everyone in a 10-yard radius. What the main thing it's going to do, though, is not the damage, but it's actually going to knock them away from you and then also slow them by 50%, and you can use it while stunned. So a great way of doing a bit of damage, knocking your enemies back and then slowing them down and getting them away from you. Water walking here, you can put on you or any allies, and quite simply, you can then walk on water, but damage will cancel that effect. This could be really useful whenever really you need to walk on water, which could be in raids, dungeons, or the open world, or battlegrounds. It really could be in any situation here. Wind Shear, this is a really, really important one on a 12-second cooldown. This is your interrupt or kick. If you hear someone saying the word kick, that just means interrupt. It's how we're going to interrupt our enemies' spellcasting. Literally, like imagine I'm casting Lightning Bolt, I could interrupt that and the spell would not go off, it's interrupted. And I really want to hit home here how important using this is a lot in PvP, in Mythic Plus, sometimes in raiding. Veterans and beginners alike really overlook the importance. It can be make or break, especially in higher Mythic Plus keys, for example, whether you win or lose, to have you interrupted a certain spell. And interrupting as a group is so important. Hexing is another really interesting one. You're going to transform the victim into a frog and incapacitate them for an entire minute, but it does only work on beasts and humanoids. One of my favourite spells in the whole game, Ghost Wolf. We can use it without a cooldown, whenever the hell we like, indoors and outdoors. We can turn into a Ghost Wolf, as you can see here. And this is going to increase our movement speed by a whopping 40%. So you can use this on boss fights, in combat, inside. You know, you can use this in so many situations to speed up getting out of something, or getting from A to B in a certain boss fight, or just getting from A to B after a wipe. There are so many useful things for this, and it is honestly absolutely amazing. On the right then, we've got Nature Swiftness on a 1 minute cooldown. The next healing or damaging nature spell you cast is instant cast and costs no mana. So if I cost like my lightning bolt, you can see it's instant rather than having to actually cast the entire spell like we have here. Then we've got a big defensive Earth Elemental, as you can see it here. Calls forth a greater Earth Elemental to protect you and your allies for 1.2 minutes. While this elemental is active, and this is my favourite thing about the ability, your maximum health is increased by 15%. So you can actually use this, like if you know the boss is going to do a big, huge attack on you and it might kill you, well, we can use this Earth Elemental to actually add more to our health, therefore lessening the chance that will happen. We've got Spirit Walk here, again on a 1 minute cooldown, removing all movement impairing effects and increasing your movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. Another great cooldown there. If something, you know, sticks us in the mud, if you will, we can get out and then really speed up. And lastly, this is completely new to the War Within for Shamans, we get Sky Fury. Harness the Fury of the Wind Lord to grant a target ally 2% mastery, the stat that we spoke about earlier, and empower their auto attacks to have a 20% chance to instantly strike again for an hour. If the target is in your party or raid, it will do it to everyone. This is a new group and raid-wide buff that we now get as Shamans, which is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm so glad they've added this in. The last one I want to talk about, which you may be aware of, is Bloodlust. Increasing the haste of all party and raid members by 30% for 40 seconds. And this is on a 10 minute cooldown. And you can see here, like my lightning bolts are now a lot faster. Everything is going to be a lot faster. This is generally known as the biggest cooldown in the game. If you're a beginner, you may not be aware of it. Shamans have it, evokers have it, hunters have it, mages have it, and you will all share that cooldown. If one of you uses it, the others will be on cooldown as well. So you're generally going to use this when your raid leader or group leader tells you, or just ask them, when would you like me to use it? Because this is like the biggest cooldown that literally is in the game. It is huge, absolutely huge. And that is all of the main utilities and kind of defensives I think you need to be aware of in the War Within as a Shaman. Again, do look through the spellbook when you are, you know, more familiar with the spec. You know, we've got a lot of totems that we can use, like Windrush Totem's a good one. Let me just show you that one. You know, we've got loads of totems, like we can place this one, and when you walk through it, you know, you're partying, you are all sped up. There's things like Spirit Walker's Grace, Totemic Recall, Tremor Totem, Stone Bulwark Totem. The list literally goes on and on and on. There's so many of them, but I don't want to overwhelm you in this. Now for the best bit, which is, of course, the rotation. The way that I'm going to show it to you today is something I like to call what, when, why. What spells are we using? When are we using them? Why are we using them? So we have a few cooldowns here. Stormkeeper. Charge yourself with lightning, causing your next 2 lightning bolts to deal more damage, and cause your next 2 lightning bolts or chain lightnings to be instant and trigger an elemental overload on every target. If you already know Stormkeeper, you gain an additional charge. Here is Storm Elemental. Calls forth a great Storm Elemental to do loads of damage. While it's active, each time you cast lightning bolt or chain lightning, the cast time of lightning bolt and chain lightning is reduced, and that can stack up to 10 times. Primordial Wave, blasting your target with a wave of energy, dealing elemental damage and applying flame shock to them. Your next Lava Burst will also hit all targets affected by your flame shock for half the normal damage. Lava Burst hurls molten lava at the target, dealing fire damage, and it will always critically hit if that target has flame shock on them. So TLDR, and I should have really put it in here, but I haven't. use Flame Shock kind of in between here. So because Primordial Wave actually puts on Flame Shock to your target, generally it should be enough that you never need to use Flame Shock itself, because Primordial Wave will keep the uptime. You only want to use Lava Burst on targets with Flame Shock, which they will, because you're going to keep it up. Then we're going to use Ancestral Swiftness, pretty much on cooldown. Your next healing or damaging spell is instant, doesn't cost any mana, and does more damage. If you know Nature Swiftness, it's replaced by Ancestral Swiftness, which is what we're having here, and causes Ancestral Swiftness to call an Ancestor to your side, which is the little person you just saw. After that, we can use Elemental Blast whenever we have enough Maelstrom, and then we will use Lightning Bolt as our filler. I used the word Maelstrom there. If we look here, you can see I've got mana, which we don't really care about, and then I've got another one, which is 0 out of 175, and that is our Maelstrom. So the idea is that when we have enough Maelstrom, we're going to be using it on Elemental Blast. So when you, just before you pull, you can use your Stormkeeper and Storm Elemental as you're going into combat. Then go in with Primordial Wave to do damage and also put Flame Shock on the target. Then we can use our Lava Burst, only really if we've got Primordial Wave active and something else as well, which is called Lava Surge. Flame Shock periodic damage, so it's a dot, it's a damage over time, that's the Flame Shock that your Primordial Wave's putting on. It has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Lava Burst and cause your next Lava Burst to be instant as well. So whenever you see Lava Burst light up, pretty much use it, and it will be after you use your Primordial Wave. After that, we're going to use Ancestral Swiftness on cooldown and use Elemental Blast whenever we can. And if we cannot, we're going to spam Lightning Bolt as our filler. So again, we're going to use Stormkeeper and our Storm Elemental. We're going to use Primordial Wave, using any free Lava Bursts, keeping Ancestral Swiftness on cooldown, and using any Lightning Bolts that we can, generating Maelstrom, keeping up Flame Shock on our target, and then as you can see here, we're using our Elemental Blast. And that is really the main rotation that we are going to be following from left until right. Now let's delve a bit deeper into the why we're using what we're using. You may notice there's also a elemental when you use your Stormkeeper. That's because of Fury of the Storms. Activating Stormkeeper summons a powerful lightning elemental to fight by your side. We have Splintered Elements, which actually affects your Primordial Wave. Primordial Wave grants you more haste, plus 4% for each additional Lava Burst generated by Primordial Wave for 12 seconds, which is really nice. We've got Flash of Lightning up here, increasing the critical strike chance of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, and casting Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of any nature spells by a second. Then we've got a few interesting ones here. Skybreaker's Fiery Demise, Flame Shock damage over time, critical strikes, reduce the cooldown of your Fire and Storm Elemental, and Flame Shock has a 50% increased critical strike chance. So TLDR, the damage that is being done from your Flame Shock is actually also going to be reducing the cooldown on your Storm Elemental by a second whenever it crits. We are going to be using different hero talents for both the raiding and Mythic Plus rotation. I do want to make you aware of that. It is Farseer for raiding. We're going to go through that pretty much now. And then I'm going to go through the changes we're making to the talent tree and then hero talents with the Mythic Plus rotation as well for you. So for this build, we are going to be taking the Farseer hero talents. This is available to both Elemental and Restoration Shamans. And it's the same talents no matter which spec you're in for those two. So I am showing you it here with, Elemental as an example, but don't worry, this is both for Elemental and Restoration. So basically, when you use Primordial Wave, it's going to call an Ancestor to your side. Whenever you cast either a healing or damaging spell, the Ancestor is going to cast a similar spell. And I really like this. Going down first on the left, we've got our first option. Your Ancestor's spells are more powerful, woohoo, or Ancient Fellowship. Ancestors have a 20% chance to call another Ancestor when they expire. Honestly, I quite like Ancient Fellowship for this one. It kind of really depends. I think a lot of these are really up to you. You do get all of them, by the way, apart from the two choices, or the three choices. Offering from Beyond. When an Ancestor is called, they reduce the cooldown of Fire Elemental and Storm Elemental, so reducing your cooldowns there. Then we have Nature Harmony, reduces the cooldown of Nature's Guardian and causes it to heal for an additional amount. Or Earthen Communion, Earth Shield has an additional 3 charges and heals you for more. Generally, I think Earthen Communion is the way to go on this one. Then going through the middle, we've got Routine Communion. Lava Burst casts have an 8% chance, again, to call an ancestor to your side, so elemental. Or in Restoration, I would go for ancestors last an additional 4 seconds. So again, depending on your spec, if you're watching this on the Restoration video or the Elemental video, it's very obvious, which one you're going to pick here. Increases your maximum Maelstrom by 25 on Primordial Capacity. Increases the damage of Earth Shock, Elemental Blast, and Earthquake, and the healing of Healing Surge. Very flat healing increase. And on the right side, Lava Burst gains an additional charge and deals more damage. Not really great for Resto. Using spells of a cast time increases the duration of Spirit Walker's Grace and Spirit Walker's Aegis up to a maximum of 4 seconds. Okay, cool. Final Calling. When an ancestor expires, they cast Elemental Blast at a nearby enemy. Honestly, I don't think Farseer is... I'm not loving it for Restoration. And lastly, we have Ancestral Swiftness on a 30-second cooldown. Your next healing or damaging spell is instant, costs no mana, and deals 10% increased damage and healing. If you know at Nature's Swiftness, which we generally will, it is replaced by Ancestral Swiftness and causes Ancestral Swiftness to call an ancestor to your side for 6 seconds. You can basically see this as an upgrade to your Nature's Swiftness spell. And that really is all it's actually doing, in my opinion, really there. It sounds better than it is, but hey, it is still quite nice. As you can see here in Mythic Plus, we are again using Stormbringer rather than Farseer for the rotation. I don't need to worry though, we're not really making too many actual changes. It just is generally better for Mythic Plus. Basically, Farseer is a lot more single target based, and Stormbringer is a lot more kind of, it's not far behind in single target, but it just makes so much better sense in AoE situations. And again, we will go through that in a deep dive as well. Apart from that, not many talents have really changed. I'm actually going to just show you. So we go into Mythic Plus from the raid build. You can see the main keystone talent here is changing. There's a few important ones. We're getting Liquid Magma Totem, Searing Flames, where Flame Shock damage has a chance to generate 2 Maelstrom. The main ones really is Surge of Power. We've got Earth Shock instead of Elemental Blast, and then we've got Surge of Power. So Earth Shock, etc., enhance your next spell cast within 15 seconds. Depending on what it is, it's going to do an increased effect here. Liquid Magma Totem is fantastic in AoE and therefore a Mythic Plus situation because we can place it, and as you can see, it's just spewing out magma, doing loads of AoE damage, and I love it. So the rotation does change a little bit though. Not much, but a little bit. We lose the Ancestral one, and it's back to Nature's Swiftness, so still do use it. It's still going to be Stormkeeper and Storm Elemental, and then Primordial Wave, keeping up your Flame Shock with Primordial Wave. You can use your instant Lava Bursts again still, and then we're going to put Earth Shock here. You'll notice there's a gap here, and that is for something called Tempest. So basically, every 300 Maelstrom you spend will turn your Lightning Bolt into a spell called Tempest. When it does turn into Tempest, use it here in this slot. Because I can't show them both at the same time, it's kind of easier to show it like this. So use Tempest when your Lightning Bolt changes here. Otherwise, use Lightning Bolt here if Stormkeeper is active. So use it here if it's active. If Stormkeeper is not active, then use Liquid Magma Totem. And then if you've got nothing else to press, it's going to be Lightning Bolt anyway. Again, using any procs you get on your Earth Shock. That really is the only change we're making to the rotation for Mythic Plus. And then if it is in an AoE situation, we can use Chain Lightning instead of Lightning Bolt. And also in here, you're going to be using Earthquake as well. So this is Mythic Plus single target. If it's multi-target, kind of AoE situation, multiple targets, technically Lava Burst Totem is actually going to come sort of more to here, and that's going to move down like that. And then you're going to replace that for Chain Lightning and shove in Earthquake here as well. An Earthquake is going to cost 55 Maelstrom. So it is a Maelstrom Subender one. But it's basically a big AoE, causes the Earth within 8 yards to the target ration to tremble and break, dealing damage over 7 seconds and has a chance to knock enemies down. And multiple uses can also overlap. So that's really the only changes we're making if you've got multiple targets in... oh, and there we go. There is Tempest. So you can see it in action. And there it is. Oh, my good Lord. You'd only get one use of it, however. I do really love how it works with Elemental Shaman this season. It's very, very crazy with so much lightning, etc. I think it's really fun. And hopefully you do too. So now let's have a look at those hero talents we're now taking in a bit more depth. So now let's look at the Stormbringer hero talents, which is the hero talent choice that you are going to be taking in this build. And this is available to both enhancement and elemental shamans. Do ignore the other choice in the background. I'm just showing you these hero talents here as an example. They are the same no matter what spec you go into, for Stormbringer. So basically, Stormbringer is all about using lightning and chain lightning, turning your lightning into something called Tempest. And that's what this first one does here. Every 300 Maelstrom spent replaces your next lightning bolt with Tempest. And then going down, spending Maelstrom gives you more haste. Going down again, lightning bolt and chain lightning have a chance to cause an additional elemental overload. Your lightning damage is increased here. Going down the middle increases the critical strike of your nature damage spells and, lightning. This one is interesting. Actually, no, it's not at all. I don't know why I said that. It's actually couldn't be less interesting. One is for single target and one is for multi-target. Arc Discharge. When Tempest strikes more than one target, your next 2 chain lightning spells are instant and deal more damage. Or, if it only strikes a single target, gain Maelstrom. Very obvious, single target and AoE. Then we've got Conductive Energy. Lightning Rod targets now also take 20% of the damage that Tempest takes. And on the right-hand side, we've got your nature damage crit. Reduce your target's movement speed. These ones I would see a more utility. Reducing their movement speed. Gain a stack of Stormkeeper every 50 seconds. And then, again, 2 options. Surging Currents. After using Tempest, your next chain heal or healing surge will be instant, cast and consume no mana, which we're really not going to be using much. I guess you could use it as an instant heal for yourself, as almost like an extra little defensive. But that's going to take up a global cooldown for DPS. So yeah, use that kind of where needed, I suppose. Target struck by a Tempest deal 10% less damage to you. Again, really quite niche and depends on the situation. Open world content, PvP, etc. It's going to be quite good. But for things like Mythic Plus and raiding, it's not as useful. Lastly, Awakening Storms. Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have a chance to strike your target for nature damage. Every 3 times this occurs, your next Lightning Bolt is replaced again by Tempest. So it really is going around Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning for the Stormbringer heroes. And if you aren't aware, you don't actually have, apart from the ones where you have to choose one or the other, which is these 2, you literally take every single point by level 80. It's not like your other talents where you really have to choose. You do get to pick all of them. Apart from obviously where you've got to do every side of it. Looking at the consumables and gems and enchants we're using in the War Within, they have made a lot of changes in how these work. So first things first, now you can get a Nerubian Gem Weaver from the weekly vault, meaning you can add an extra gem slot to your head, wrist and waist. And you can now put 2 gem slots on your neck, ring 1 and ring 2. So you can add 2 slots for gems on every piece of jewelry. And that's not from the vault, it's just from jeweler's settings. So on the cloak, Winged Grace gives avoidance. Crystalline Radiance gives primary stat. Avoidance is obviously avoidance. Sunset Spellthread increases intellect and stamina. Scout's March is speed. We're putting haste and crit on our rings. And we've got Authority of the Depths on our weapon. When we do damage, we're occasionally going to do damage with Authority of the Depths, doing more and more dark shadow damage to our enemy, and it can kind of stack 3 times or deepen, as the tooltip will tell us. Then looking at the consumables, we're going with a Flask of Tempered Swiftness, which is massive haste, and then Feast of the Divine Day for intellect. Tempered Potion, so you know I've got haste on this flask. Tempered Potion will give you all of your other secondary stats that you don't have on your flask, which is really cool. Healing Potion is obvious. Flame Tongue Weapon, you can put on your weapon, of course. We are doing a more storm build that I've been showing you. Algari Mana Oil is something we can put on our weapon, which increases crit and haste as well. An Augment Rune is called Crystallized Augment Rune this season, and this is going to add intellect as well. We're going to use a Culminating Blasphemite, increasing primary stat, and it's also going to increase your critical strike effect by 0.15% per gem color you put on your gear, meaning you want to use a Deadly Emerald, Sapphire, Ruby, and Onyx to get the full 15, 15, 15, 15 to 0.6 increased critical strike effect. If you used all rubies, you would only get 0.15% effect. So hopefully that makes sense. And these are the new consumables and enchants that we are going to be using in Season 1 of The War Within. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in The War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in The War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for The War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVUI, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.